An armored adventurer flies through the air, shooting lightning bolts from his hands and landing in the middle of his foes, pummeling them with metal-clad fists. A muscular, lightning-clad warrior swings a hammer and calls upon the power of his divine strength to smite his foes. And between them stands a shield-wielding patriot, a leader inspiring them to greater heights. Today, we're going to take a look at some ideas on how to create the Avengers from the MCU in D&D 5th edition. Hello and welcome. I'm Anton from SweDnD, and with me today I have Martin.
Yo.
And Philip.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about ways to incorporate some of your favorite characters from popular media into D&D 5th edition, namely the main Avengers from the MCU. Let's begin with the leader of the Avengers, Captain America.
Yes, and I've got the opportunity to try and make Captain America in D&D 5th edition. And even though he doesn't have much of spell casting in the movies, he's a strong protector, a charismatic and natural leader. So of course, he's a paladin. He also has a very strong personal creed, I think kind of like a oath he follows, almost. And the subclass of paladin that he would be would of course be the Oath of the Crown, at least to start with. He's very patriotic, he's sworn to serve his country. It's even in his name, Captain America, even though he has the Puerto Rican flag on his armor, I think. Look it up, Google it, you will see it. He is also essentially like the spirit of his nation, which is very fitting for the tenets of the Oath of the Crown. But as you know, if you have watched the Marvel movies, he kind of changes a bit during them, and perhaps he will change subclass down the way, maybe to swear an oath of devotion instead. Some of the iconic feats I chose to take with this character is, of course, first and foremost, Shieldmaster. We all know how good Steve Rogers is with using his shield, mainly as a weapon, I guess, in the movies, but he also uses it for its defensive purpose, which is fitting, I guess. And I really like the flavor of the Shieldmaster feat, letting you be extra good at dex saves as long as you have your shield. I think of the scene in The Winter Soldier when he jumps out of a glass elevator and lands on his shield to not take as much falling damage. Then I would also choose Tavern Brawler for him, because he uses a lot of hand-to-hand combat. And he also uses a lot of improvised weapons, which is also covered by this feat. And if I would go over some iconic equipment for Captain America, sadly we don't have too many shields to choose from in the official released material for D&D 5e. And I don't feel like there is any particular shield really fitting the one he has in the movies. So I would just give him a normal +3 shield, a very strong, capable shield, as it is made of vibranium, I think it's called. Yes. And if it would ever be released a shield called the Shield of Returning or Boomerang Shield or something, I would switch to that instead. And last but not least, in the final battle against the big bad evil guy, he would, in the last minute, at his most desperate hour, be able to wield a hammer of thunderbolts.
I think that sounds pretty fitting. I especially like your choice of Paladin Oath for him. I think that's very apt.
Yeah, it sounds very fitting.
And it's a seldom used oath, I think.
It's very rare, but I think it's thematically fitting.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
How about you, Philip? Which character have you looked at?
Well, the next character up is the Hulk himself. And I believe that a lot of people can guess already that the class is a barbarian with rage and all, anger being his strong point. And first up, I actually thought of making him a berserker barbarian, but I realized after reading a little bit that the beast barbarian, the Path of the Beast, is a great fit because during the rage he transforms, according to the beast itself. Then you could probably homebrew the beast of being kind of abyssal or demonic in nature, give him the huge hulking monstrous muscle mass that he is, and as part of the transformation you usually get like claws or fangs or a tail, but you could just make the claws into fists and make that bludgeoning damage instead. So he just goes around with huge fists and punches stuff while raging. One option I thought of was making 3 levels of barbarian and then make it monk so that the fists become even more powerful as you level up. Equipment wise, I mean, he's got the boxers of unbreaking, obviously. Doesn't need anything more than that. Feats, I mean, the physical ones, tough, getting lots of hit points. I mean, he rarely ever takes damage at all, visibly. Crusher, one of the new feats from Tasha's, so he can pummel his opponents properly. And maybe athlete, to jump and run and all that stuff. I mean, just a hulking mass that runs around and crushes people with his fists, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds very fitting, and I like the transformation aspect of the Path of the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not considered that. That's a great choice, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I will follow up with one of the more obvious choices, I think. The counterpart to Captain America and his paladin would be Iron Man, Tony Stark, and his artificer. It seems like a natural choice for the character, seeing as he regularly invents new things and gadgets to use against his enemies. And specifically, one of the subclasses introduced in the recent book, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, is called the Armorer. And their entire concept is that they imbue a set of armor with magical properties that they then wear, and they gain the ability to either pummel their foes with thunder damage or shoot lightning damage from their fists at them, using their intellect instead of their strength. And I think that is exactly pretty much what Iron Man does, but he does it in a contemporary setting rather than in a fantasy setting. The character would probably start out with a noble background or a wealthy merchant background, being privileged from the upper crust, and then falling on hard times and crafting his own set of armor and finally bonding to it magically and becoming a hero in his own right. For his feats, I considered Heavy Armor Master, seeing as it reduces the amount of non-magical damage that he can take, which I think is represented in the movies very well by him being able to withstand a lot of damage due to his armor, of course. The specific thing about the Artificer is that it is still a spellcaster, and they also get Artificer infusions that they get to choose. So I think some good choices for these things when it comes to Tony Stark and Iron Man would definitely be to choose Fly as soon as you can, seeing as that is one of the iconic things that Iron Man does. Other options are to use Firebolts or Shocking Grasp for your cantrip, perhaps, using magic missiles that seek out the foes unerringly, or Expeditious Retreat, perhaps, to simulate a quick thrust with the boosters and getting out of harm's way easily.
You really bring up some great flavorful choices there.
I think you can tailor a lot of spells to fit him very well, like Dark Vision and other things as well. When it comes to the infusions that the Artificers get to pick, it basically determines what they are able to do, which magical items they are able to create. And they have some cool options, like for improving armor specifically, for instance, improving strength checks and strength saving throws, and making it harder to knock them prone, which could simulate some sort of stabilizer thrusters, as well as creating an armor of levitation or an armor of speed that could allow the character to move at blistering speeds. So I think there are a lot of cool opportunities with this specific subclass to create an Iron Man-like character that could even have various types of magical armor throughout a campaign, and like switch them out, kind of like Iron Man switches out his different models of armor.
Yeah, it feels like that subclass might have taken some parts of inspiration from Iron Man.
Only slightly.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Next up, you have one more character that you've looked at, Martin.
Yes, and that's the mighty Hawkeye. And even though he's extremely skilled with a bow, believe it or not, Hawkeye, he's not a ranger, he's a fighter.
Oh.
A dexterity-based fighter. Because, I mean, of course, he's very good with his bow and everything, which fighters can be, but he also shows a lot of proficiency with different kinds of martial arts and the use of daggers and swords during the movies themselves as well. Specifically when he takes on the guys of Ronin in the last Avengers movie. And as a fighter, he would choose the fighting style archery to have an even more easy time to hit his target with his bow. I mean, when you go back and look at the movies, they make it a point that he doesn't even have to look at his targets to shoot and hit them. And his subclass is Battlemaster, because with this subclass he can use a lot of different maneuvers, which can be used both with his ranged weapon, but also in his hand-to-hand combat or with other weapons that he wields. And I thought that some of the Battlemaster's maneuvers that would fit well would be the disarming attack, knocking the weapon or other equipment out of someone's hands, and his precision attack, further like emphasizing his great accuracy. And for the third choice, I chose trip attack, just because I like it, and that it can be used with ranged and melee attacks as well. And as a fighter, he also doesn't have the best mental defenses and mental saving throws, which they also make a point of in the first Avengers movie, where he gets mind controlled by the obvious mind flayer Loki immediately. It's
of course.
so that fits the fighter class very well.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. And as a fighter, he would get to choose a lot of feats, and some standouts that I think would be a great choice for Hawkeye are Alert, and maybe Athlete, Fighting Initiate to get another fighting style to maybe choose something for his melee combat as well. Gunner, we see him use some firearms in the movies as well, and of course Sharpshooter. And then I want to include Lucky, because he is very lucky in these movies and survives a lot of things. So that is a fitting feat for him.
Yeah, he has to be a normal human to survive.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And regarding some iconic equipment for him, we have the same dilemma here with bows as we had with shields with Captain America. But the lack of magic bows in D&D 5e is even worse. I think there's only one or two I know of. And the Oath bow, which is included in the Dungeon Master's Guide, is not very fitting, I think, for the bow he uses in the movies. So I would just give him a regular +1 bow. His feats and his skills in the movies, I think, rather comes from his skills rather than the equipment he uses. But he would need a quiver of Elona to carry all the arrows he will need, never run out of them. And I guess you could introduce some different kinds of unbreakable magic arrows for an ammunition. You can get a lot of inspiration from the movies as well regarding this.
I like how you made him kind of versatile, but still made it so he didn't have any magical powers, which is quite like that is one of his signatures, I suppose, in the MCU, that he is just a very skilled human, much like another Avenger that we will be bringing up soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the Battle Master was a great choice. I like that subclass a lot.
Really versatile fighter.
Yeah, you can tailor it to become whatever you personally want, basically. All right. Let's move on to perhaps the strongest Avenger, according to himself.
According to himself.
Peter, take it away.
Thor is a god, really. And I do believe he actually is a god in D&D 5e2. I think he exists in the Pantheon
In one pantheon
as one of the storm gods.
He's listed in the DMG certainly as part of the Norse pantheon, I suppose.
Yeah. So you could probably kind of as they do in the first movie, the first Thor movie, that he gets sent down to Earth without his powers and kind of has to earn them back. You could kind of play it as he's reincarnated as a mortal on the material plane and have to slowly regain his god powers.
That's
so to
a
say.
really cool idea.
And in the form of a cleric of the Tempest domain. I was thinking of a paladin, of course, also of the. There's one at least that gets call lightning, and and they do have the thunderous smite and all that. But the cleric of the Tempest domain, they get a lot of lightning powers, and in level 17 they do get the ability to fly. So at all times outside. So that would work really well. When you think of the equipment, I mean, obviously Mjolnir, the hammer, or you can go with the great axe that he gets in the final Avengers movies. Either way, it works, and you can probably work it as that Mjolnir is what you said before, the hammer of thunderbolts, maybe a modified version.
Yeah.
That kind of slowly also gains his powers as he becomes more and more worthy.
That could be cool, yeah.
And that it's like a matter of returning also, like the shield, because he throws it and he can also always summon it. It could have been a packed weapon even as a warlock, but cleric is more fitting. He could dual class have Mjolnir as his packed weapon. Actually,
that's a cool take.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
The Eldritch Knight, I think they also have the ability to bond to a weapon.
Okay, so maybe Eldritch Knight, Eldritch Knight Tempest Cleric.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. With the great axe, and he can probably switch weapons with cap and whatever, like you said. Feats wise, I don't think he should have that many feats. Maybe just tough, because he's also quite resilient. I mean, he's not Hulk resilient, but he could take. I mean, he does do single combat against Hulk and does not die immediately. So, I mean, he can sustain a lot of damage. So I guess like just powering up his strength and the constitution and all that. But he doesn't really do much except call lightning and strike people with a hammer and fly around. Really, the real magic comes from his divine connection to himself.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
Channel your own divinity, kind of, as a Tempest cleric to deal extra thunder and lightning damage.
If I don't misremember, it does say in the player's handbook that your cleric can believe in a concept or something different than just straight up God. So I think that's the like building up power or regaining power over time is a cool take on it.
Yeah.
It could be like if he uses commune, he can just ask what the guy with the all-seeing eye. I don't remember his name.
Oh, no. You mean Heimdall?
Mimer.
Heimdall.
Oh,
yeah.
Heimdall, yeah.
The one at the gate.
Yeah, Heimdall.
Guardian of the gate. Like he can see everything when it stands up there. He can like, hey Heimdall, what about this? He's like, this Thor is like this. Oh, okay, thanks.
So it's basically just phoning home for him.
Yeah.
That could be a really interesting twist.
Since he is
Well-
his own god, so
Exactly. He's already part of the pantheon. That's
Yeah.
fun. Well, that brings us to the final member of the original Avengers. Maybe not one of the most powerful ones, but she has done a lot of important work in both the Avengers movies and most predominantly the Iron Man and Captain America movies. And that's Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. And for her, to no big surprise, I went with the class of Rogue, seeing as she is very much focused on subterfuge and dexterity and moving unseen. Her background, I thought it would of course be the spy, which is a variant of the criminal, reflecting her past as maybe an agent of an evil power that has now turned to good or something like that. Her subclass, I thought at first of making her an assassin to reflect the fact that she has been an assassin and in many ways I guess still is, but I figured that even more fitting was the mastermind subclass from the Cenothar's Guide, seeing as she over the course of the series takes on more of this sort of intel role in a big way. She gathers intelligence, she fools people into divulging their secrets or their plans, most importantly perhaps with Loki in the first Avengers movie. And she seems like the kind of character that is just as good at actual combat as she is at intrigue and intelligence gathering.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point because, well, when the Avengers are at their lowest after the snap, she is kind of the de facto leader.
Exactly. She becomes the kind of organizer, the
mastermind,
spider in the web,
if you will. Yes. Yeah.
The mastermind, if you will. Exactly. And they gain a skill, for instance, that allows them to only, after a short time, be able to adopt any sort of dialect or mannerisms to blend into any crowd where they know the language, which is perfect for someone who used to be a spy and someone who has to be really on point with their infiltration skills. And as for her fighting style, I went back and forth a little bit on whether she should dual class or multi-class as a monk to be able to do better hand-to-hand combat and maybe just take 1 or 2 levels in monk for that purpose, or if she should also go for the tavern brawler feat in order to be able to better go toe-to-toe with her opponents. But apart from that, she should take the gunner feat so she could dual wield pistols, obviously. And probably either the actor or the mobile feat would work well for her as well, seeing as a big part of her fighting style is moving around swiftly, striking, then moving away, and avoiding being hit at all costs. Because if she gets hit by, a character that has the same power level as Thor or the Hulk, she is pretty much done for.
Yeah.
That's where that uncanny dodge also comes well in handy, I think, from the Rogue class.
Yeah.
When it comes to iconic magic items for her, she doesn't really have any staple items. She uses a variety of different tools throughout the movies, but I thought perhaps you could homebrew some sort of weapon that could have a similar effect to Shocking Grasp, where it shocks the enemy, consuming a charge and giving disadvantage on a future attack, reflecting sort of fighting with knuckles or with batons that have electricity coursing through them. And otherwise, I think the various items of elven kind that improve stealth and improve the ability to infiltrate and work under the radar would be useful for her.
Seems very fitting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, since we mentioned the administrative role, a pair of sending stones probably wouldn't be bad.
Smart stones.
Or maybe an advanced version where she could talk to the entire team and help coordinate under the guidance of Captain America while in combat, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I believe some games run with having people using telepathic earrings or something like that, or just having walkies at all time. Like
Yeah.
everyone has rarest telepathic bond pretty much at all times.
And that's what we thought of for the main or original Avengers of the MCU. And personally, I think it's fun to kind of flex your character creation muscles to try to adapt the options that we have into an already existing character. What did you guys think?
I think it's really fun to put another spin on a lot of abilities you're familiar with. Like, I love that you brought up with Iron Man and flying. For me, it's always been a very magical way of flying, but like flavoring it, like you get like boosters that you can activate for 10 minutes under your feet or hands. That's just real cool. It brings a breath of fresh air into the game, I think.
Yeah, I also think that this was like a fresh new way of practicing making characters for a theme, like in the way you want to play them, rather than just making a good character for min-maxing purposes.
Exactly. It's not
Indeed,
about...
And I think that this might be something that we revisit in the times to come. And I encourage everyone watching to perhaps try to create some characters based on your favorite characters from popular media, even if they were not in this video. Maybe you can come up with something else. And if you have any other suggestions, ideas, or comments on what we just talked about, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more D&D content. Thank you for coming today, Martin and Philip, and chatting with me about these fun character ideas.
Thank you for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
See you next time.
See you. Bye-bye.